Welcome to the city of Antwerp, where we gathered today for the Global Indian Business Meet and organized by Horasis. I have with me on my right Frank Richter, the chairman of Horasis, and we have got Jason Ma from US. He is into education and into development of people in all over Asia and India. Frank, as you all know, is running this organization for so many years very well. I'm going to ask you a few questions today, which is a little different from the run of things. Since you do, the Horasis does this global Arab meet, the global Chinese meet, the Russian meet, and the Indian meet, we want to look today at the cultural ethos and the cultural connections in the development. So tell me, Frank, first of all, what is your impressions about the impact of the culture of a nation or the psyche of people on the business growth of the country, especially so about India?
Thanks, Chairman Sharma. I think there's a very strong connection between culture and business. It stems from our education background, our cultural background, where we are born, what kind of food we eat, what kind of people we interact with. And it reflects somehow in the attitude we do our business dealings. Just in a way portrayed black and white in Asia with a very long-term approach. In a way, many Asian companies are still run by families, very much an entrepreneurial spirit behind. It's long-term oriented. We're not thinking in terms of quarterly reporting, in terms of the next few months, but it's all like 3, 4, 5, even 10, 20 years. I've been to China recently, and I talked about a similar issue, saying what is the difference between the Chinese and the so-called Anglo-Saxon model. The Chinese always say, you know, we think long-term. When you go to Shanghai, for example, right, there's now a museum on the future. It's not like in the past. In Europe, we have a lot of museums, and it's all like the old stuff inside. Of course, it's nice. You all like it. And a lot of tourists come to see it. But they're more future-oriented, long-term oriented. And that's, I think, the beauty of culture. I think we're all different. What we see now in these times of globalization is that cultures and business styles are blending, blurring. You know, people like Jason, for example, they are born somewhere and studying somewhere else, now working all around the globe. And I think it's a challenge also for us at Horasis to deal with all those different cultures, to understand the spirit, the fundamentals, the roots of culture and the different business dealings. In a way, how to write a contract, what kind of points do we stress. In America, when whatever you do, you have to write a 100, 200 pages contract. We have to hire not only one lawyer, but several lawyers. In China, we still have the golden handshake. And very much so in India, I think as well. You just trust each other. And it's maybe this Asian cultural spirit of trusting each other, which makes Asian companies so different. Of course, Asian companies now going for IPOs at Wall Street or London, so have to adopt to the Anglo-Saxon style. But I see a bit of changes now back home, back here in Europe, back in the US, that we adopt a bit more of a long-term approach. We learn from the Asians. Absolutely. And at the end, I think the truth might be in between. It's you know, a cultural mix, and we will find each other adopting and using the best elements from the East and the West.
Thank you, Frank. Jason, coming to you, you would be very well placed to ask this question because you are where you are, being from China and in America. Tell me, in the corporate governance issues, do you see any differences which societies or cultures bring purely in how corporates are governed? And do you see any problems with that happening in India or in other places, since you've seen that and done that?
I would say, you know, when a couple of years ago, when Enron, MCI, WorldCom crashed, that spawned a couple of rather aggressive US senators that introduced the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. Yes. And as an American, and also as an Asian in one brain, from the American side, I thought that was atrocious. That was pretty bad. So we from Silicon Valley, we did not really like the fact that all these strings that were brought by SOX, Sarbanes-Oxley Act, that was a little bit overdone in reaction to the wrongs that were done by a very small fraction of the large corporate environment, if you will, right? So, and that has taken away some of the overall international competitive advantage from the American standpoint. Now, fast forward to today, I think it's a very vibrant and healthy and exciting phenomenon that's going on in India, in many parts of Asia, where, as one example, I talked to one of my friends on a Forbes list in Malaysia. He says, Jason, I think that 8 to 9 out of 10 great opportunities 1 decade from now is going to be in Asia. And I tend to agree with him, because as both an Asian and America, you look at the situations in terms of the market opportunities right now, the growth opportunities in Asia, and the sensitivity to some need for corporate governance, but not done in ways that are a little bit too Western, if you will, right? So as for myself, I'm a big believer in combining the best of the East, of the Asian culture and the discipline, with the American creativity and dynamics and lateral thinking. So Asian culture, your value system, your belief system, that is totally transcending through your corporate culture as well, including corporate governance, right? So what are Asians, right? You're Indian.
Yes.
I'm Chinese, but I'm also American, right? So we talk the same language in terms of family, education, and respect for elderly, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Right? Very important. But at the same time, you are Indian, you also have a bit of a Western flavor, if you will. You don't hold back as much as some of my Eastern Asian colleagues, who tend to be a bit more Confucius, right? So I think in the next decade to come, it's going to be very delicious. I'm looking forward to that. I tend to be more optimistic, despite certain problems that we have in the world today.
By the way, if I just may comment, you say, blending the East and the West. It's exactly what Horasis means.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, Horasis in, the first way means visions in Greek. But when I founded a company, I first adopted the Chinese name. It's O Ya Se. Horasis, O Ya Se in Chinese. It basically means connecting the East and the West. Right, and I think that's what you say, Jason. We have to, in a way, take the best things from the West and from the East and find the middle way. And I think 1-to-1 is usually not 2, but it's 11, right? Because we grow it up and we do it together.
Okay, lovely. One more thing which comes to my mind is that sometimes people get a little worried about the youth of the world, Especially sometimes in Europe you find skinheads and lots of gangs and all. And some people start getting worried that maybe the youth is getting a little softer, and how will that take place? And look at you also deal with a lot of youth. So tell me, what is your feeling about, firstly, about the youth, which is coming up very technical savvy, but also got little problems? We are okay with that, and how are they going to be trained? How are they going to go out to the mainstream to become productive? Can you say something about that, Jason?
Sometimes that's a core part of my overall dedication, my life dedication, my mission. My mission in life today is to help empower and groom future generations of young global leaders, right? I watch Asia, I watch Europe, I watch the Americas. It makes me sad sometimes to see that, being an immigrant Asian like myself to the States, I tend to hold this hungry immigrant mentality. I work hard. I try to work smarter and smarter all the time. I believe that there is always room for improvement. Now, I look at some of the youth in parts of Europe, they feel a little bit hopeless. There's things that different constituencies in the ecosystem could work on together. The powerful corporates, public ones, the private ones, the NGOs, entrepreneurs like Frank and myself, and just try to keep on evangelizing. And because without drivers, without catalysts, without inspirators, it's going to be hard for youth that are still have a sense of innocence. Okay, it's not fully their fault, right? So like I said, it's part of a structural situation. But I'm a strong believer in value systems, in belief systems, in skills, the way you think. Because if you think the right way, that'll affect your decisions and your behavior and actions. So I like to be a bit more optimistic.
Okay. Coming to the last point, tell me, is there a linkage between innovation and research and culture? Because we find that across the world, there are countries and the regions of the world where they've been very innovative, a lot of research, a lot of path-breaking areas, and certain countries which seem to follow and do it very well. So what is the connection in culture and innovation and research? I'll ask you first and then you could.
Right. When you look at, I talked, of course, I have a lot of CEO friends, right, throughout the world, in Asia, in Europe, and all that. And a lot of them still think that the higher education, the top tier universities in the States are still top notch because they really encourage, you know, advanced research. And one reason for that is really to be very cutting edge in creating inventions and discoveries. It's very fresh. Because without pursuit, you're not going to go anywhere, right? It gives you bragging rights as well, right? And part of that would become commercialized by corporations into products in the future. In Silicon Valley, we're crazy people. We are very innovative. We like to invent new things. We like to disrupt existing industries in the world, light a fire, and create new categories, right? So it's done as a sport and also economically benefit you and me.
Yep, sure.
On the supply side, on the demand side here. I think one thing that I realized in Asia, in Europe, and around the world is in Silicon Valley and a bit in Boston, even in parts of, in many parts of India and China, many parts of the world right now, there's a lot of mini Silicon Valleys, is that they're more tolerant on some short-term failures. You try hard, you make a mistake once or twice, they're not gonna knock you down, right? But in the older days in Asia and Europe, if you fail one time, oh, you're disowned, or you're a failure, right? But in Silicon Valley, actually, we expect you to talk about your failures. What have you learned about that? How have you become a better person? How have you become more effective, more efficient? It's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's part of the ingredients that you need in the system.
Yeah, Frank, your views on innovation and cultural...
Innovation, I think, can't be ordered from the top. There are many, Silicon Valley type of models in use around the world where, like, a state is putting millions of dollars into infrastructure. Take, for example, Skolkovo in Moscow, in Russia. And I think it doesn't work like that. What you need are the right people. What you need are the innovators. And you have to attract talent from around the world to stay there, and not necessarily Russians, Chinese, Indians, but people from all around the world who will meet, join hands, and jointly innovate. So it's a bit the secret of Silicon Valley. A lot of migrants going there.
Right.
And there, I think it doesn't really matter where you're from. You meet in a pub, you have an idea, and you start, right? And it's this culture of tolerance, as you mentioned before, which can't be ordered from the top. But still, I believe our leadership, our governments have a role to play. They have to inspire people. They have to be a role model. They have to say that entrepreneurship is the best thing in the world. They have to really go to the schools and even educate the young people, say, be an entrepreneur and don't work for the state or for a large company. Be an entrepreneur. And I think that's the duty of our leaders, to tell the young people that entrepreneurship is the right thing to do.
Frank, thank you very much for your lovely comments, and we look forward to your contribution tomorrow in Horasis as you go to it. And Jason, you too. I hope you're looking forward to the meet tomorrow.
Thank you.
Look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you.